off the issue. Okay, we can call to order.
Mr. Hikes. Present. Ms. Weiss.
Present.
Ms. Hubbard.
Here.
Ms. Fowle.
Present.
Ms. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
President Cousins, I have a motion.
Vice President Davis.
I move to postpone 2 items from the posted agenda, the construction update and the Z-Space update.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Henry.
Mr. Hikes.
Yes.
Ms. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard.
Abstain?
Ms. Fowle.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Wait, I'm sorry. Point of clarity. Postpone until when?
To the work session for the construction update and indefinitely for the other one.
Okay. So the minutes should say the construction update on the postpone until the work session date, and then the other
The
one.
other one will be indefinitely until it's posted again. So motion was
Okay.
postponed, not to table.
Okay. Just want to make sure the minutes reflected that properly.
Thank you.
We're going to move into student and staff recognition. Parent Day of Action. SLPS parents want to know how our lawmakers are showing up for our children's future. The Parent Action Council is gearing up for its 3rd annual Parent Day of Action in Jefferson City on February the 20th, 2024. This event continues our efforts in mobilizing parents, safeguarding public education, holding officials accountable, promoting democratic school management, advocating for adequate funding, and prioritizing school safety. Parents will present firsthand testimony and submit written accounts to express their concerns. Through effective advocacy, parents have successfully preserved $18 million annually in SLPS funding, preventing a total of $36 million from being diverted away from our district. For more information or to RSVP for the 2024 Parent Day of Action, visit www.slps.org/Day of Action. Sumner getting notice. We also want to take a moment to recognize the hard work taking place at Sumner High School. The ongoing effort to use the arts as a way of diversify Sumner's curriculum is being noticed. If you watched the Grammy Award a week ago, you couldn't get through much of the broadcast without seeing a promo for KMOV News, featured about the historical ties to the great Tina Turner and the amazing work that is happening today to carry on the school artistic tradition. This was wonderful recognition on one of the most highly viewed televised programs of the year. I'd like to welcome Senior Principal Dr. Rhonda Wallace to say a few words. Dr. Wallace. Before Dr. Wallace come, and she just summed her down. Look at her. She got the she got the hat working. But I wanted to personally recognize you and make sure everyone knew that you have done a phenomenal job, you and your staff. I had the opportunity to visit Sumner High School. At the time, I was visiting St. Louis Development Corporation Economic Empowerment Center, and I wanted to go over and see Sumner High School because, you know, everyone always saying that they're saving Sumner, they're saving Sumner. But I really wanted to see who was saving Sumner. And of course, you weren't there because you was doing the work as the principal should do. But I was so impressed with your staff. Ms. Nesbitt, can you stand, please? I was impressed with your staff and how when I came in, the students were actually transitioning from class, and it was the best feeling I ever had, seeing so many students, you know, going from class to class, and they were excited. You know, one of the students I pulled to the side, I was like, come here. And he was just smiling and just engaged, and I was like, you look like you getting in trouble. He was like, no, I'm not. Tell him, Ms. Nibbs, I'm not getting in trouble. But he was just so cute and engaged. Like you could tell they all wanted to be there. And I commend you for that, because that takes work to see a principal not there, but students just flooding the halls and just going back and forth to class, really wanting to be at school. So thank you for the hard work that you and your staff are doing, and you really saw the kids wanting to be there. So I want to commend you for the hard work that you all are doing, and we see you.
Oh, thank you, George. Thank you so much for those kind words. As you said, I could not do this without a team of people. In addition to our iconic artistic tradition, I would like to bring recognition to my amazing academic and support staff at the Sumner High School and Fresh Start Academy at Sumner High School. Also, a huge shout out to the sensational scholars of Sumner High School, who are the main characters in increased enrollment, decrease in discipline incidents, and huge gains of improvement on assessments. They are the real MVPs. Now listen, we could not make it through the day without my phenomenal admin team, Amanda LeBou and Diana Summer. Please stand. My safety and security team, the support of our Grand Alumni Associations, and Dr. Sherman, my network superintendent. To my custodial team and cafeteria staff, we appreciate you. To Dr. Scarlett, Dr. Borshade, and the Board of Education, thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve as the building leader of the prestigious Sumner High School. We are the Ville. We bleed maroon and white. We breathe success. It follows us. We are SLPS. Stay tuned. Good night.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace. All right, so transitioning into the Spirit of Excellence, Elementary and Middle School Basketball Championship. Tonight, the Spirit of Excellence spotlights the student athletes who took part in last weekend's Elementary and Middle School Basketball Championship Tournament. Last Saturday's games showcased phenomenal performance from all teams. I want to extend a heartfelt appreciation to the unsung heroes. Those are all the people behind the scenes: the custodial team, the school safety personnel, scorekeepers, ticket sellers, nurses, coaches, administrators, staff, families who work tirelessly every Saturday to support our student athletes. Congratulations to our first and second place teams. For co-ed elementary, the first place with back-to-back champions were the Gateway Gators, and second place were the Dewey Dragons. Middle school girls, first place with back-to-back championships, McKinley Goldbugs. Ooh, we got some We got some good go Bugs. I like that. Second place for Carlane Jaguars, and then for middle school boys, first place with a three-peat, Compton Drew Dolphins, and second place Gateway Jaguars. Congratulations to those student athletes. Career Fair. The 2024 St. Louis Public Schools Career Fair is scheduled for Friday, March 1st, exclusively for non-certified and essential workers, and Saturday, March 2nd for certified staff. This comprehensive two-day event offers you the chance to connect, interview, and potentially secure employment with us as we welcome candidates from diverse backgrounds. Please mark your calendar for the day that aligns with your experience. Seize the opportunity to advance your career with St. Louis Public Schools. To expedite the process, visit www.slps.org/apply to complete your application. The power of pre-K. Tap into the power of pre-K at St. Louis Public Schools. We have a short video featuring our youngest learners showcasing the power of pre-K.
Tap into the power of pre-K at St. Louis Public Schools. Every moment here is a chance for discovery. Our free pre-K program uses interactive play, social development, and guided learning to nurture young minds to flourish and grow. Our certified teachers create a safe, inclusive space where every child's unique abilities are celebrated, laying a solid foundation for a lifetime of success. Every child deserves the best start in life, so enroll your child now to experience the power of pre-K at St. Louis Public Schools.
Enrollment for the 24-25 academic year is officially underway. Our free full-day pre-K program welcomes children who are 3 to 4 years old or will be by July 31st. Discover more about this incredible opportunity by calling 314-331-6150 or visiting our website at www.slps.org/pre-K. Thank you.
Superintendent's report presentation, return on investments.
All right. So in a series that we're calling the Return on Investment series, one of the things that we really want to do is to make sure that we're sharing how we're stewarding the resources that we've been entrusted with and how we're making value-based budget decisions as well. And so I will kick off a little bit of our discussions on our returns on investment and just give you a little bit of context. So as you may know, we have 4 student success goals: third grade reading, third grade mathematics, college and career readiness, and also culture and climate student well-being. Our flagship goal is our third grade reading goal, and we are doing a collective impact initiative and really seeing how do we all really work in success of our third grade reading goal. Next slide. Also, our team has worked together to think about what are our cross-cutting values that cut across each one of the different goal areas. And so highly effective educators and leaders, if we have that, if we ensure that we have joyful and engaged students, if we prioritize authentic family and community partnership, if we provide personalized supports and innovative pathways, if we ensure that we have equitable and multiple sources of data, and ensure that our students have opportunities to be college and career ready critical thinkers from pre-K through 12, then our students will attain really high success at high levels in the system. So we believe these are strategic values, and what you should be able to see across our investments is how we invest in each one of these areas with our resources, whether it's professional learning for educators, ways that we engage and partner with families, and some of the personalized pathways, for example. So a little bit about coherence and the importance of why we need to always drive toward coherence in the system. So I always say that coherence is this place that is really hard to get to, and it's an infinite quest. But in the meantime, we really work on alignment. How do we get all of our arrows moving in the same direction and get them to touch and intersect with each other and hopefully become interdependent, where you can barely even tell the different arrows from each other, and that's what we call the coherence. At the center of student success is a partnership. That partnership is between the board, our superintendent, our cabinet, and also our schools and community as well. So I have talked about this slide before, and I'm going to talk about it again. It's one of my favorite ones. And so when you look at the first image, I call that the blob. It's the system that doesn't have really a structure around it. You notice that there are arrows that are going in all kind of different directions. The arrows aren't touching each other. They're just going and moving around. And so when I think about my journey, I think about coming into the system on the 1st of July and just encountering a place that had so many strong people, so much talent, but really needing the talent development and needing the structures to help them move forward in the same direction. So as I predict, I have this timeline across that because change takes time. And so I say student achievement, 4 years, 4 goals equals student achievement. That doesn't mean that we won't have incremental increases in what's happening with students. We're experiencing that right now. But in order to truly synergize, it takes time, it takes commitment, and it takes institutional discipline. That's why we're really focused on this literacy goal. So my predictions are that by the end of year 1 in my role, I call myself the chief galvanizer, and so I am supposed to be a galvanizing force for the system. That you notice that there's a structure on the outside, I'm predicting by the end of the year, so you can see the arrow, and you notice that the arrows are going in different directions, but they're touching. They're having communication, we're building connections with each other, we're talking about what we're doing, and we're continuing to try and work toward that. Notice the continuum of the line just keeps moving into the end of year 2, year 3. And you look at the middle arrow and you notice there's the structure of the arrow, but the arrows are starting to go in the same direction. This work takes time, it is iterative, it takes a lot of institutional discipline, like I said before. So when you move beyond into year 4 and 5, we call that image advanced alignment, where you see that not only are the arrows going in the same direction, but they're touching each other. And then, of course, coherence, this infinite quest, there you can barely even tell where the arrows start and stop. They're all connected with each other into interdependence. And so as we think about this opportunity for our system, one of the things that we always have to test is our tolerance for turbulence. And so working in school systems, there is never a dull moment. There are always changes. I always say that we maybe plan for the choreographed version, but then the live version happens, and we have to adjust all the time. So you can move to the next slide. So when I talk about in that year 3 to 4, that advanced alignment, and even before that, notice those arrows are wavy. They're not just straight arrows. There are no straight arrows. There are no straight trajectories toward student achievement and toward the outcomes that we're seeking for in our system. So you have to have some tolerance for turbulence. You have to stay in communication with each other. You have to learn, and I always say it's hard to learn and it's hard to grow and look good at the same time. And so that is the case for St. Louis Public Schools, but we are growing every single day. I can see the growth all of the time, and my job is to make sure that I'm sharing it with our public. So we have narrowed down a portfolio of initiatives, and so if you see, I'm sorry the outcomes are so little, they seem bigger on my screen before. Literacy for the Lou is our flagship initiative. It is our internal and external work that we're doing in service of outcomes for students in literacy. We are focused on creating a best-in-class initiative where we bring together all of our resources, our partnerships, in order to really amplify this work and improve outcomes for students, improve engagement for families, and really celebrate the culture that I saw that existed. If you attended the Literacy for the Lou kickoff event, we had so many people there, and it showed about the common ethos and the common just joy that so many families already have around reading, around books, and it was just a testament of that. The other portfolio of initiatives is around predictable and efficient operations, and so two big areas within that is transportation and procurement that we're working on, talent development, strategic communication, and also the development of a strategic plan that we'll be launching this year, work to adopt a new 5-year strategic plan for next year. So I know this is hard to see, but I want to talk a little bit about the organizational structure in our system and just what we're encountering. So I talk about the tolerance for turbulence. So if you notice at the top, it's super tiny, but that's the greater public. That's our broader public, the citizens of the city of St. Louis. In yellow, that is our school board, and then there is the superintendent with me reporting to them. Then I have a cabinet, and so I won't go too deep into the organization, but I just want to highlight a few things this year. I'm super excited that Dr. Lucretia Brown is our new Chief Academic Officer. She'll be starting officially March 1st, but she has been here in St. Louis, even here in February. We met today, and she is working remotely at times, but we're super excited about that. We continue to have Dr. Boris Shade as our Chief of Schools. Our Chief Information Officer has decided to retire recently, and so that is a vacancy for the system. So how does the system operate without a Chief Information Officer? And oftentimes I'm finding that many of our cabinet positions didn't have a clear successor for them. And so that's something that's a challenge that we're trying to move through. Again, tolerance for turbulence. I continue to have two chiefs of staff, Dr. Crapo and Chief Manal Alansi, both supporting the academic side and the operations side. Chief Communications Officer, that is a vacancy in our system. Chief Alansi has worked with the communications team, and they are killing it. You all are doing so well. I am so proud of you all the time. Growing, 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 and they need someone, a chief, who specializes in this work, who can really help support our communication needs as a system. So that is yet a vacancy. We have our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Square Watson. We have our Chief Financial Officer, Chief Angie Banks. And then Chief Talent and Strategy Officer is also a vacancy. And I'm so proud of the work of Dr. Berry and Chief Dozier, who came together. I call them like a little Voltron themselves, as a wonderful duo to help keep things moving forward. I am so grateful for all the staff members, Mr. Sales, all the people in the absence of their leaders coming and stepping forward and said, I'll step forward, I'll lead for the system and for our students. Operating without a full cabinet is not an easy endeavor at all. And so we have had to ensure that we still have deliverables. We still need to get things posted for you all in communications. People still need to get hired. So we can't have one person leave. We still have to have the internet, all the things that need to happen in the absence of having the Chief Information Officer. So one area that we've been doing really to help build capacity in our system is working with partners. And so I want to talk a little bit about partners and the return on investment and what you'll be able to see in our next board meetings and our work sessions now until the end of May and June, and probably some more in August, where we'll be having our partners come here and share with us about the work that they're doing, the deliverables, and the return on investment for the resources that we've been entrusted with. So you can move to the next slide. Again, super tiny. Sorry about that. We need to work on some accessibility on this. But I just want to give you an idea of some of the areas that we'll be featuring in our board meetings around the strategic consultants that we're working with. I'm really proud of the people that we're working with. It seems like their staff. We have even Mr. Charles Wright is here this week, and we had 3 of them here last week. Almost, it seemed like they're in residence here in the district for the amount of work we need to do around procurement and human resources. But it gives you a little bit of an idea around talent development for human resources, having a high-performing superintendent leadership cabinet, and predictable, efficient operations. So you can see a few people we're working with, like Harvest Consultant, helping us with our leadership pipelines, so that we make sure that we're developing our talent. I often say that St. Louis doesn't have a talent issue, we have a talent development issue. So it's very important for us to develop the talent, but also have pathways and opportunities for people as they move through their career to have opportunities to grow in the organization. working with other, supports like Impact Educational Group, helping to support us in developing our instructional vision, our instructional leadership vision, the PD plan. We've never been able to deliver a PD plan to our school board, and so we're super excited about having an actual PD plan that is visible for the public and for the school board, that we'll have posted, and just be really transparent about how we are using our resources for professional development. Mr. Watson, it has a lot of people working with him, the Council of Great City Schools. We have Formative helping us to problem solve around our transportation issues, and we have our partners Navigate even here who are helping us with our construction projects as our project managers. Just sort of moving through strategic communications. We've been working with SMJ Communications. I'm super grateful for the St. Louis Public Schools Foundation for the resources that they gave to us to help us to work with SMJ Communications, and I can see many different changes and improvements that are happening as a result of that, both in the development of our crisis communication plans and other operating guideline books and protocols for communications. And so then lastly, I'll just highlight that we've been working with Insight Educational Group, and I was just on a call with them today on the development of our new strategic plan, where I'm excited to take our insights from our first 100 days, bring forward our citywide plan for education, so we talked about that with them, and then gathering more insights over the next few months, over the next several months, really 8 months, that we have predicted for the development of our strategic plan, to have focus groups, to have students really lead, start with our students, to be able to hear what their values, interests, and priorities are, meeting with families across the city in order to gather even more insights to help us really shape the strategic plan and the strategic vision for our school district as we move forward. So that gives a little bit of foreshadowing, and so you'll be able to look on the agendas as time moves forward and see some of these same partners and just the work that they're doing with the system, how we're trying to be as nimble as possible, how we're trying to move things forward, even with staffing challenges in the organization. And I'm just very excited about the possibilities as we move forward. I would really love a fully staffed cabinet. It's not easy to try and fill in so many roles, and everyone is just sort of boundary spanning and doing their very best. And I appreciate my team so much for everything that you all are doing. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Scarlett? No questions? Thank you, Dr. Scarlett. Reading updates.
Good evening, President Cousins, members of the board, Dr. Scarlett, and members of our audience. I am here today to share with you a reading update. The academic team is excited to share the reading update on the collaboration that has occurred on building leadership capacity and student outcomes. When we talk about building leadership capacity, the focus remains on moving from managing status quo to principals serving as instructional leaders. Serving as an instructional leader requires that building principals know each student by name, strength, and need. That comes with understanding data associated with our students and being very collaborative. Tonight, you will hear an update that continues to be aligned with our board goals, our SLPS values, and a portrait of a graduate. You'll hear about the success of our SLP Flash Reading Initiative, Literacy for the LU, where our goal is to turn moments of reading into habits that students enjoy both in school and at home. You'll hear an update about our STAR training, our reading and writing initiatives, and our libraries. Once again, our goals are aligned with the third grade reading, more specifically, and making sure that our students are ready for college and career and culture and climate. Once again, our goals are aligned to our strategic values. And again, update on Literacy for the Lou. There was so much excitement generated for the entire St. Louis community with our launch regarding Literacy for the Lou on January 27. It was reported that over 4,000 people were in attendance, not to mention our online community who tuned in to hear the presentation and our vision. St. Louis Public Library also shared that Literacy for the Lou set the record on the highest number of library cards signed up for in a day. Literacy for the Lou was truly a community event. There were barbers there to cut hair. There were face painters there to show a creative outlet for children who wanted to express themselves in a fun way. And books were distributed to every family and child that attended Literacy for the Lou. We're still gathering numbers on the number of books distributed because children and families are still picking up books as a result of the excitement generated for Literacy for the Lou. In order to include student voices, SLP will conduct a survey across the district and the city using a QR code to provide input on the type of incentives they would like to see. This will guide the conversations with partners to support Literacy for the Lou. We're working on a sprint challenge in recognition of our 314 area code. We will be asking students to read 314 minutes by March 14th, which is equal to 5 hours and 14 minutes. As we work on the sprint challenge, we will continue to ask students, what are you reading? What are you all reading? I'm reading Tears of Joy, which is the legacy of a Nigerian upbringing, which represents my upbringing. We will also ask, what are you writing? We're also working on a literacy newsletter that will be shared throughout the entire St. Louis community. Our end of the year event will be Laces for Literacy. We will also be asking the community to read 1,838 minutes by the end of the school year, which is equivalent to 30 hours and 38 minutes. You may be wondering, why 1,838 minutes? Did you know St. Louis Public Schools was established in 1838? Students will be reading for pleasure for at least 1,838 minutes, and this fun fact will be etched in their memory. We will continue with our STAR training. Principals had another opportunity to work with Renaissance. The purpose of this meeting was to help principals understand how and when students hit proficiency, and once a child hits proficiency, their goals should be more challenging. We continue to work with Reach and Associates. As we continue to work with them, we are aligned with our board goals, our SLPS values, and our Portrait of a Graduate with the 6 schools, Ashland, Merrimack, Columbia, Jefferson, Peabody, and Walbridge. There is a heightened connection on decoding deeper learning that applies to content knowledge. This professional learning is continuing to elevate our teachers, our AICs, and our principals' mindsets and skills. Our students are able to address rigorous content, and this continues their deeper learning. As you'll see here, this is just an opportunity to take a look into the work that we have been doing. Our next professional learning will take place on February 20th and the 21st. There will be a demonstration lesson. This time, teachers will be able to observe and give it immediate feedback. The focus will be on providing feedback for student writing and citing text. I will now turn it over to Dr. Crable for our building and instructional vision.
As you can see, Dr. Boershade and her team have been very busy. So I'll talk a little bit about our work around building an instructional vision. So as Dr. Scarlett shared earlier, aligned with our work to improve student outcomes, we have embarked on the creation of a shared instructional vision with the support of our partner, James Randall, with Impact Educational Group. So that was on the slide earlier that had all of our capacity building partners. So what does that work look like? We have gathered a team of principals, teachers, parents, and district leaders to clearly define what teaching and learning should always look like, no matter what classroom you're going into. And so what this team is doing is coming together on a regular basis, and we're asking ourselves the 3 questions on this slide. So what do we believe are critical components to high quality instruction? What key areas of instruction do we want to focus on as a district? And then from there, what does proficiency look like across these key areas? So we'll not only be having this discussion, reading research, looking at other instructional visions that other districts have created, but we'll be spending time in classrooms, be having larger focus groups with teachers, students, and parents. That's why we have a representative from the teaching group, parent group on our committee. And so the answers to these questions will shape our vision for instruction as a district. And I think I want to highlight, what is the benefit of having a shared instructional vision? And so the creation of an instructional vision will yield both short and long-term benefits to SLPS, as we will have a set of practices and principles that guide teaching and learning in our district. Regardless of the resources that we have, regardless of the curriculum, we're working to have a shared experience across all classrooms for our students. So that concludes our presentation, and we are happy to take questions at this time.
Is there any questions?
I have a question for Dr. Borshade. Sorry, you're already sitting down. I actually just want you to talk a little bit more about the one PD. I had a chance to be with Dr. Scarlett, and we just saw a part of it over at Jefferson with the consultant, and it was, as I understood it, it was a group of principals from the schools that you identified, as well as some, I guess, mentor teachers or experienced teachers, and you were in groups talking about different research practices and things like that. Could you sort of talk about how that PD looks a little different from what we're sort of used to seeing? Because it looked very different to me, not that I'm an expert.
So the difference is there is a demonstration with students on site versus us sitting away from the students. So we are actually working with students in the building, and students are asking questions. Teachers get to see this, and then they go back and debrief right there on the spot so that they can take those same instructional strategies and use them the very next day. And lots of feedback was that this is very different and that it's very hands-on, and it's something that they can use immediately.
And what I saw was a group of experienced teachers that probably taught lots of kids to read, and they were energized because they were sitting there sharing different experiences and building off of each other. Mm-hmm. And I guess I wonder what's the plan to sort of expand that from that group so all of our teachers and all of our schools have that experience.
So the plan is these 6 schools will be our phase 1, and then we will add another 6 schools as our phase 2, and then we will continue to build it out. We will also have professional learning in the summertime as well.
Any other questions?
Yes, I just want to say thank you again for Literacy in the Loop. We were so excited. I was just as excited when my granddaughter, we went. We got there so early. We got there about an hour and a half early because, and she wanted to meet the authors and what have you. But my question is for the incentives for the students. I know that reading the books, we got the little log page, which she can't find now, but what about, I was thinking if I take her to the grocery store, because we talked about the importance of learning how to read and why we're doing this whole thing, and reading books, reading the side of packages, and wherever you might be, just how can kids get credit for that, or if that's possible? Do they need to videotape it or count how long it takes them to go through the grocery store and read the boxes, read the meat products, and have a discussion because we're talking about little simple things like that, but it goes a long way in life.
Thank you for that. So what students will have an opportunity to do is write down and log what they read. And if they read the side of a cereal box, just tell us how long it took you to read the side of that box. If you're reading several boxes, we are honoring the fact that students are reading. That's what we want students to do, to be able to read for fun and then make that moment a habit. So they'll be able to log that.
Board Member Hubbard.
I think this question is for Claire.
Okay.
I know in my head what you mean when you say instructional vision, but could you spell it out for a fifth grader?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's when you walk into a class, what do you want it to look like, sound like, feel like? That's what I would think of it as. An example I can give is a district might say, we really want to focus on differentiating instruction for our students. And so what we would actually do is create a rubric for that. So we would show at each level of the system. So if you're beginning, this is what it looks like if you're differentiating instruction. If you're moving towards the middle and you're approaching, this is what it looks like, and so forth. And so what I think is the advantage of this is, one, we have this clear rubric that's defined, but we're then able to develop our professional development around what we want to see in a classroom, what we want it to feel like. So it isn't just something that, it feels really good to say all these nice things about what you want to see in a classroom. So then from there, we actually have to mold how we support our teachers and how we coach our teachers around that.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Dr. Borche. I don't think you all are really kind of intensifying what the Literacy for the Loop is really doing. Can you, I know Board Member Jones was asking about the reading levels, but can you tell us more about the passports? I don't think you really touched on the passports, or how the community really engagement piece would really play a part in what the Literacy for the Loop would really be about. Can you kind of really go more in detail with that? Because I know, to my understanding, I thought the businesses will play a huge role in it, especially the community businesses as well. So can you kind of touch a little bit on that?
Sure. The community businesses will play a huge part in this. What we want to make sure is that we hear from our students. So we're going to be asking our students via a QR code, what are some of the incentives that they want? And that will drive the number or who we partner with. So if they say they want a pizza from Emos. Oh, you want a passport? Okay, they're over there. So if you want pizza from Emos, then that means that we need to develop a partnership with Emos. If you say you want an incentive from McDonald's, then we need to develop a partnership from McDonald's. And then we will talk about what that looks like. How can a student receive a gift certificate to come and shop or eat in your restaurant? But we want to make sure that we include our students in on this, because this is all about them as well. So then they would write down what they are reading, the title of the book that they're reading, and the number of minutes. And from there, they will be rewarded based on the partnerships that they have selected.
And I also want to make sure people understand, you stated that you had over 4,000 that was in participation, but I think the library will also have a long-term collaboration with what you all are doing in regards to Literacy for the Loop, where the students that are not St. Louis Public School students will actually have the opportunity to go to the community libraries and receive books and these passports as well, correct?
So we will have 20,000 printed, and then we will have 2,500 printed and given to the library so that students can go in and pick up the passport and use them as well.
Okay. And the final thing I did want to do is make sure that we recognize the sponsors that we have for that day. We did have over 4,000 people that were in attendance, but we were able to feed those families as well. And we had the barbers that actually showed up, and they did not charge to cut hair, but we were able to feed the families, and we did not anticipate 4,000. I think we only anticipated about 1,000. We ended up well over what we expected, but we did have sponsors, so I do want to publicly recognize GasMart Gas Station and St. Louis Public School Foundation, who did provide funding to feed the families for that day. And I think we had the communications team that had to unexpectedly go out and get Emos Pizza,
Yeah.
additional food. But it goes back to what Dr. Scarlett has said, that it does take a group to do this. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys had well over 800 to 1,000 volunteers that came out that day to help make this event successful. So I do want to commend you all for the hard work that was really put in. I am looking at this literature, and I think you even had Vice President Davis' daughter out here holding signage, working in a code as well. So it looks like everybody, all hands was on deck that day. But this was a very successful day, so I commend you all for the hard work.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions regarding this presentation? Thank you, Dr. Quaybro and Dr. Borsche.
Next, we'll have Camp SLPS update, Dr. Sarah Briscoe. And Dr. Briscoe was former principal of Bryan Hill, and she's our new director of expanded learning. And so we're happy to have you here.
Testing. All right. Good evening, President Cousins, members of the board, and Superintendent Scarlett. I'm excited to share an overview of Camp SLPS 2024. The work that we do will always be guided by the board goals, as they provide a clear direction and focus for the work that we do as a system. You will also notice that Camp SLPS 2024 is directly aligned to our strategic values. I will be taking you on a journey throughout my overview and presenting on our goals for summer learning, criterion for participation, the timeline, programs and offerings, a sample schedule, and sharing anticipated outcomes of our success along with the projected budget. In elementary and middle school, our goal is to focus on decoding deeper learning. Students will think critically, engage in academic discourse, and learn to self-direct their own learning. In high school, we will enhance the secondary course options, expand elective offerings, and offer credit recovery and career technical educational pathways. Who can participate? All SLPS scholars, P4 through 12th grade, and particularly our P4 scholars transitioning to kindergarten, scholars 1 or more grade levels below, scholars eligible for extended school year, rising 7th and 8th and 9th grade scholars, gifted and talented scholars, and high school scholars who require credit recovery. Summer Camp 2024 will begin on June 3rd and run through July 12th. 27 days as compared to our 19 days in prior years. Schools and offices will be closed in observance of Juneteenth on June 19th and July 4th and 5th in observance of Independence Day. This month, I have been working daily with the budget department to finalize our projected budget. I've also been working with Mr. Watson and his team to secure 19 summer school sites and the Human Resources Department to launch our leadership and staff applications. On February 29th, Mr. Zales and his team will have some dynamic marketing tools that will launch to help with recruiting our students. March 4th, student registration will launch, and by the 11th, staffing will be secured. Summer professional development sessions will begin on the 14th for staff, and on the 18th, external providers will be identified. On April 8th, summer learning confirmation letters will be sent to families, and transportation will be secured by April 15th. We will, however, continue with ongoing registration and staffing. On May 28th, staff PD will continue and classroom prep will begin. Summer open house will be on May 31st. June 3rd, summer learning begins. And on the 1st of July, surveys for all stakeholders will launch. July 10th, our summer culminating activity will begin, and the last day of summer learning is July 12th. Our summer camp will have a STEM focus: science, technology, engineering, and math. We will have early childhood sites and a targeted transition program for our 7th, 8th, and 9th grade scholars. We are providing enrichment pathways for high school scholars, and we plan to have a parent orientation and open house at every site with a culminating activity at the end of Camp SOPS. Here is the sample schedule for a Tier 2 school. We anticipate increased enrollment and attendance percentages, an increase in the percent of students that become on track for proficiency in ELA and math, and an increase in the percentage of scholars on track for graduation. Here you will see last year's summer camp projections and the actual budget, along with the projected budget for this summer. Please note that these numbers can change based on actual student enrollment. As an example, last year they projected $144,000 for purchased services and spent $71,000. Another example is transportation. Last year they projected approximately $1.7 million and spent $1.3. This year, we are projecting $2.2 million. Ultimately, this year's number may decrease based on student enrollment and the amount of routes needed for transportation. Thank you for listening, and are there any questions?
Yeah. So what is our expected increase in participation? Do we have kind of a number, a hopeful number yet? And what have we done to gauge interest in increased participation from last year? Surveys or any other methods?
So I do know last year Tyler did survey all stakeholders. I don't have those numbers at this time, but I can make sure that I get those numbers to Dr. Borshade. However, I know that last year we ended at about 4,200 students. We started with a projection of roughly about 7,000, and as of the last day of summer school, it was 4,268 students. This year, we're projecting about 4,800 students will be in attendance. The projection is roughly about 6,800.
So how did the starting numbers versus the ending numbers go for attendance? Were there kids who started and then stopped coming by the end of the program, or were there kids who didn't start at the beginning but maybe started late and then finished the program?
So I do know that it started with the 7,000 students just filling out applications, registration to come to summer school. And then I think the first day they started at roughly about 6,000, and then it did decline to 4,200 students by the end. So we're hoping bringing the joy of learning and students having hands-on, minds-on instructional practices and methods that enrollment will increase and stay steady, enrollment and attendance percentages.
And how can we as a board support you in that effort? What do you need from us?
Great question. Wow, just your support, getting the word out. I know that George and his team is going to come up with some great marketing tools to bring students in. We're hoping to stay consistent in our message, stay consistent in our classroom practices, making learning fun for our students and engaging. Just your support.
And I guess maybe one key data point I would suggest looking at this year is why we lost students in enrollment. Was due to family vacations at the end of the year? Was it due to they found other activities? Did they just kind of figure out, hey, we're going to be going back to school soon, I need a little break? Kind of figuring out the reason for that so that we can keep them engaged and keep that summer learning loss from occurring.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
And thank you for putting this together. That's it.
Are you extending the time?
The time during the day, or we did extend from 27 days, from 19 days to 27 days, but our tiers are staying the same. Our school hours are the same
Okay,
for this year.
okay. Board Member West.
Thank you. Could you go into a little bit more detail about some adjustments that you all have made based on lessons learned from last summer? If you have those.
Again, 2 weeks long here. I've done some in-depth research. I do know with attendance, we are looking to bring on some of those practices that we normally do during the school year, where we're monitoring students or reaching out to those families and kind of selling the Camp SOPS message, along with just making, again, the learning hands-on, minds-on, engaging for students. Some other adjustments that we're making is we're providing staff with some high-quality professional development opportunities to make sure that when students step into those classrooms, they are actively engaging students into those deeper learning types of activities. We're starting, I feel like I'm behind the ball, but I think we're starting early with recruiting. Every department I've went to said, oh, we usually do this later, so we're starting early with our recruitment, starting earlier with our applications.
Great, thank you. I know you're, jumping in right now, so I appreciate your response.
Board Member Hubbard.
So I wanted to clarify that every kid can go. The slide, when it says who can participate and then it has specific names, specific types of students.
All St. Louis Public School scholars are welcome for summer school. Camp SOPS is open to everyone.
And also, every time I went to summer camp, I got a t-shirt. Is that part of the plan?
It is. Yes. We still have our t-shirts.
I might send a kid.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Board Member Jones.
I just have one question. I'd like to know, will you have yard signs available?
That is something we can definitely do. I do believe. I might be speaking a little too early on it, but I know we've had signs before, so I can make sure that I work with the, I think it's Institutional Advancement Department to assure that that is something that we use.
All right, thank you.
Board Member Davis.
Going back to the who can participate, and to just sort of clarify, you don't have to currently be enrolled in St. Louis Public Schools. It's open to everybody who's a city resident. Is that right? Yes.
Yes, it is.
It is. So, and there's, always a percentage of students from parochial and charter schools, is my understanding, that do attend SLPS or summer school, especially you see a lot in the high school credit recovery space, is my understanding. To that end, you may be aware there was a bit of a miscommunication, I think, in credit advancement last year for high school students in terms of virtual participation. I don't know if that's something Dr. Archer has discussed with you, or if there's a plan for that, but we found out it was very, very important for a lot of students in high school to have that virtual option for credit advancement. They plan their whole high school career to do that, and then they get summer jobs and go to summer camp, so the virtual aspect is there. Is that part of the plan this year to include that? If you know, again, 2 weeks. And it caught Dr. Archer by surprise last year, too. So.
Yes, that has been in our talks. We have not went in depth, so I am continuing to work with Dr. Mitchell and her team on that piece.
And in terms of who can participate in the different sort of categories that you have, if you fall in one of those categories, and I guess just not in sort of the general ed student that wants to participate in the program, but if you've identified for one of those groups, is there a special way to place those students? Are there different pathways if you are 1 year below, or if you're going up to kindergarten, or the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders?
Those students are guaranteed a seat, so those are the students that we will be looking for and recruiting and making sure that we have our hands-on approach and making sure that they attend.
So there's a little bit of a hand-holding to that parent and say, hey, you've either got a reading success plan or something like that, and so this is really something that's going to benefit your student.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask, and I'm glad you clarified, because this comes up every year as well, there are no plans or abilities for plans at this point to have any aftercare. It's going to be 220 and a bus will be well, there might be different times for different schools, right? They might not all into 220.
Yeah, there's 2 tiers, but I am, again, talking with Erin Kane and working with Chevelle Stewart on aftercare, before and aftercare for our parents for summer.
And my final question is just about the budget, and I'm not sure if you know this answer. I asked this at the work session, and I'm not sure on the slide. So previously, we've supplemented the increased cost with ESSER funds, and so we still maintain that extra cost because of the higher rate of extra service pay. But in addition, we're adding 2 weeks, which adds surprisingly less salary and more transportation. Well, maybe not surprisingly, knowing how this works. Is there ESSER funds dedicated to this, or is this all a general operating budget fund?
As of right now, I do believe it's all general operation fund.
Okay. There you go. Thank you.
Well, except for transportation.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Briscoe. You were baptized today. Thank you, Dr. Scarlett. We move to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda for February, items 213-2401 through 213-2404.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowle?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Board member reports. Board member Hubbard.
This is kind of more a point of personal privilege, but I just, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and in my religious tradition, it's Ash Wednesday. And so for me, that means love and repentance. And I want to make sure that you hear, that y'all hear, that loving the school district doesn't mean only sharing our successes. You love us when you hold us accountable and when we hold ourselves accountable. And I'm I see the inefficiencies and inequality that are happening in all our school district, across our city, all the schools, every day, and I know that we can make it better. And please celebrate us when we do good things and hold us accountable. That's why we're here. The buck stops here, I'm sorry. But I just think it's important to say that, especially for me with what tomorrow means for me. Thanks.
Any other board reports?
I have one quick one. I already did mention that I was able to attend some of the professional development that was referenced in Dr. Borshade's report at Jefferson Elementary on the 31st with Dr. Scarlett, who was always fun to attend professional development because she explains everything to me. And my takeaway was teaching reading is very hard, and they were working very hard at it, and so that was great to see. We also did this last Wednesday, attend another principal professional development. I'm not sure what they were doing, but there were some team building exercises, and they were building towers, and they were having more fun than I've ever seen principals have. The legislative committee is probably not going to meet in February. We are going to, with the Parent Day of Action, which we've already referenced. And then also next week, I will be attending the COSBA seminar. I've been asked to speak with Ms. Linda Quinley from MSBA. She's updated her efficiency study and just giving a board perspective on that. And I'm sure we'll have her back to do the updated numbers for the efficiency study. The headline is they've gotten worse, not better, as expected. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Any other board member report? Seeing none, professional development request.
I make a motion to approve the professional development request for the 2024 Legislative Policy Conference for the Council of Great City Schools for any board members that wish to attend.
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes? Yes. Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Val?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Public comments. Mr. Monroe?
Good evening. At the last board meeting, I presented this board with a request, a document regarding the utilization of the vacant, crumbling school buildings in our community, and I've not received an answer. Will I get an answer, Dr. Scarlett, to my request regarding a MOU regarding these vacant school buildings, crumbling, dangerous buildings in our community? No one's given me an answer. When I sign up on that board, you sign up and they say, do you want an answer to your request? Not only did I give you a written request, because these vacant, crumbling, dangerous school buildings in our community are left, and our children are being harmed by their presence. And no one has communicated with Bill Monroe about that request. Will I get an answer to or an MOU where we can sit down and decide how a community person, a community like the Harriet Tubman plan can benefit and help our community and save lives? Will you respond to the community? I saw a very big sign on this thing about community. You don't talk to the community, you talk at us. You talk at us. Will Bill Monroe and Harriet Tubman receive an answer toward my request about these vacant school buildings and utilization that Bill Monroe has proposed to bring forth boarding schools? Our children are homeless in this community. 5,000 and 6,000 of our children are homeless in this community, and I get no response. And then you speak and say You speak to the community. You speak to the community, but the community's not involved. Bill Monroe brought the first charter school in this town, Harriet Tubman. And I'm told that I can't sit on the citywide plan. And now you come with another plan 5 years from now. Will someone respond to the community? And since you won't, I'll say this. Bill Monroe plans on running for the Board of Education, for the school board. I'm making that announcement now. There needs to be a black male presence, proactive presence on this school board that's not afraid to speak to the white racist situation that's occurring in St. Charles, St. Louis County, and what have you, where they want to do away with any black proactive people like myself as far as involving our children. Our children are dying in the street. You got to make education relative, Dr. Scarlett. If you want to do a summer program, let's include some skills, some proactive approach to skills and job training. That's what this community needs. Will I get an answer about my request?
Thank you, Mr. Monroe.
Will I get an answer about my request to sit down with you about these school buildings, Dr. Scarlett?
Thank you, Mr. Monroe.
Or do I have to come every school board meeting and sit out there at 5 o'clock and wait to come up here and get nothing?
Thank you. Have
Tell
a
me
seat,
something.
sir. Thank you.
Thank me. Show me some thanks, and let's have the community really involved. You're not involving the community in the proactive things that are happening in this community for our children. All right.
Prince Carter.
I think we're going to have to go to court.
Prince Carter.
Black people deserve better than this.
See, this is what I'm saying.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to address this board. I keep hearing Jefferson Elementary School, and it just does something to my heart. I'm a proud product of Jefferson Elementary School. I went from 1969 to 78, and as a result, I got what I call a first-class education on the elementary school level. The things that I got from Jefferson prepared me for life. We had teachers back then, Ms. Spencer, Ms. Williams, and the things that they taught and instilled on an elementary school level still impacts my life today. I recall being taught the importance of listening to the president on an elementary school level. When the president speaks, you're always supposed to stop and give it your undivided attention. Those teachers ran that school like I wish every child was exposed to what I was exposed to on the elementary school level. However, when I graduated and went to high school, I was let down by the educational structure. Everything that I had looked forward to in high school had been stripped out. I wanted to do welding. It was taken out. I wanted to do auto mechanics, auto body. All those things were taken out. The only thing that I did get was a they called it back then home ec. It was a cooking class. Well, guess what I'm doing today? I'm running a barbecue joint. I'm cooking. College ain't for everybody. And hats off to those that go and excel and do well at it. But in order for us to have a better community and a greater community, we have to find ways to tap into those that are not going to make it to college. That's part of the job, to make sure that we tap into those young folks that are not going to make it to college, because they could very well be the one that you don't want to see for real. So I came to you, and I'm going to say this real quick. I'm pleading with this board, because I know none of you probably were on this board when this happened, but I'm also an alumni of Vashon High. And when I look at them building a high school for our children, and to blatantly disrespect, not allowing them to have a soccer field, a football stadium. If you ride by there, it's a vacant lot that's not even level. They call it a practice field. I was told that there was money for it, but I'm asking this board today to take into consideration and find it in your heart to say that, you know what, no other community would tolerate that for their children. Our children deserve better. They deserve to have a soccer field, a track field, a football stadium, a baseball stadium, all on the vacant lot. And I think we send a very negative image to our children when we don't think enough of them to provide that. So I'm pleading with this board today to, like I said, you all weren't here when that happened. I understand that. I'm not blaming you all for it. But I am saying you can change that. You can do something about it if you choose to, or if you can find it in your heart to say, you know what, he's right. Those babies do deserve these things.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
You too, sir. Greg Michow. Michow.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for letting me speak for a moment. I tried to, a couple months ago, I had brought a proposal in, but I had to go babysit. And I didn't get a chance to speak at that time. And Dr. Scarlett, was very inspiring that night, and even tonight. I mean, she said a lot of valuable points, and about student achievement and the well-being. Well, I think partially what Bill Monroe is talking about is part of it, and I'm talking about Fanning School, but all the schools have a negative impact on the view of the school district. And it would be important. Kansas City, I included Kansas City's school process, and they've managed to do something with all their schools by including the residents around the neighborhood. But the problem is here that we're losing population, we're going backwards, and the same structure Dr. Scarlett was talking about for the school district that she wants to apply is lacking in urban planning too. And that's part of the reason why the decline of St. Louis has occurred, and probably a big part of it, because they're not paying attention to the neighborhoods. They take care of the developers. And that's exactly what's happened at Fanning School. So the Fanning School, they want to expand from 42 to 62 density, the units, and this is too much for the neighborhood. There's a church, a sanctuary church at the south end of the school, and it'll have to close in a couple of years because all this neighborhood was built before cars, and there's no parking for this church. There's a mosque that also uses the parking around the school on their prayer day, their big prayer day, and they probably wanted to close, but they'll definitely be impacted. All the residents, including me, I live right across from the entrance of Fanning School. It doesn't matter just parking we're going to have to drive on the block a lot of times just to find parking spaces. And even when the school was open, the street I live on, I had to occasionally drive down another street to find a parking space, and that's a third of the cars that they're proposing. And the problem with this process is that the aldermen went in a backroom deal, made a deal with the developer, and came and told us, the residents, what's going to happen, rather than make us part of the process. And you can see in Kansas City, I included Kansas City, and also something about Minneapolis, about how they include the views of the residents, and in Minneapolis say the decision-making must be clear, open, and predictable, and that if something that people have a right to be involved in decision-making that impacts them. And this is true of all of the schools. And the thing about all this is that the city isn't helping the school district solve this problem.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg.
Okay.
Mr. Astor.
Thank you. 3 quick things. One, can you all try to start meetings on time, please? I think it's disrespectful to the public if you start, it's supposed to start 6:30 and we start at 6:50 or later. 2, can you move public comment to the beginning? Again, I think it's disrespectful to the public. You come late, and then the public who wants to speak has to wait until the end of the meeting, so you just prolong their stay here. It's disrespectful. And then 3, when there are no board reports, it makes us think nothing is happening in between meetings. We understand you're not paid for this, but you volunteered for this. You chose, no one asked you to be a board member. You chose to be a board member. Great, thank you. Now, there should be some board reports to tell us what's going on in between the meetings. In the spirit of Ms. Hubbard, I'd like to applaud you for literacy in the Lou. Seems like you're maybe taking literacy seriously. Great job, thank you. I see literacy reading on the agenda for the second time. The second time in like over a year, but hey, great job, thank you, please continue. I'll ask Dr. Scarlett and others, when you do those reports, can you have some measures so we can assess how it's going? Right? And so you told us about what's going on, what activities they're engaged in, but how do we know it's working? What are the metrics we can use to assess whether the program is successful? That's just a request. And again, thank you for putting it on the agenda. Also, can you all identify a goal for reading? I don't think that's a big ask, right? This year, only 13% of black kids are reading on grade level. Only 13%. Next year, what are we shooting for? Right? In 5 years, what are we shooting for? What is the goal? I don't think that's a crazy ask to set a goal for literacy. Please. And lastly, there's a bill, the Quality Education Act. I believe you know about this, Mr. Davis. It asks or requires growth on the MAP test to be considered in rating school districts. Right now, we have a school district that's accredited where 13% of black kids are reading. So the accreditation doesn't really tell us a lot. Because if accreditation means something, 13% is ridiculous. And so my question is whether you support this act, and if you would support this act, because including growth scores and proficiency scores in the APR so that we can better assess how districts are doing, would I think motivate all of us to focus more on reading and math and the academics so we can actually hopefully see some progress. So
Thank
my
you,
question
Mr.
is
Astor.
whether you're supporting that bill.
Thank you, Mr. Astor.
I'll wait for the answer. Thank you.
Still a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Hikes? Yes. Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowle?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
We are adjourned.